at race fans, and a very warm welcome to Rockingham Speedway for a very special weekend indeed. History in the making here at Rockingham this weekend. It was the first ever staging of a 24-hour race. So it's the train team Citroen C1 24-hour race to be precise. That is coming up at 5 p.m. today. The little Citroen will be racing for 24 hours. So many of you that they're going to put on a second race here this weekend. They have a 3-hour race for Route 2 Citroen C1 as they call it, and about 30 cars in that race as well. So Citroen C1's everywhere in the paddock this weekend. I only saw that they are great clubs to drive. I hope you see 2 endurance races for them, supported by vehicles that we're seeing coming out into the pit lane for our first race of the weekend. Now 2 races for the pickup truck racing championship. Now normally we see them race off the oval here at Rockingham, 1.5 mile oval, but this weekend they will be on the circuit layout for the first time ever here at Rockingham using the full International Super Sports Car Circuit. My name is Jay Grant, I'm taking you through the action up here in the box, so John Ward will be down in the pit lane for the early part of the day, and I'm joined in the box by Adam Bella. Good morning, Dave. Yes, as you mentioned, pickups road version of Rockingham for today's action. That's quite impressive. I thought it was like running very close to 500 on the 24-hour course. It's a little bit different. It's going to be interesting to see how these guys handle the road course version of Rockingham. They're not used to taking the first hairpin, for example, but of course they do take a lot of road courses over the course of the year as well. And we have qualifying already, so this will be our first race today. And top drivers such as Speedway, Dale, will all be outside of this one. And great to start the day off with these pickups. Warming up into reorder in the pit lane now. It's looking across the programme. So you can get to available in the paddock price of £3. And the turn 2, phase 8 of the programme, you can see the engine for the pickup trucks. There are a couple of trucks on the entry list that did come out for qualifying earlier on. We had number 3, Steve Dutton, and I think there was the 52, James Johnson. We can see those 2 have been qualifying. A cracking field with 21 pickups in cars in qualifying. That's a big improvement on the field we were seeing last year's series. And let's take you through the grid for our first race of the day. The grid set by qualifying this morning, but times for qualifying set the grid, and then the top 6 are reversed. So first make it slightly more interesting. The top 6 qualifying reverse. So 6 fastest in qualifying was number 65 of Mark Willis, the reigning Rockingham points champion. And they got 2 separate points championship here at Rockingham. The race elsewhere, of course, is winning race at Grand Pascal Crop up in North Yorkshire this year. Mark Willis, the reigning Rockingham champion. He's on hold, but alongside him to the 12th, the former world wagon racing champion Paul Thompson, 65 on the front row. The second row, which should be 93 and 83. 93 is the former series champion on 2 occasions, Michael Smith, the longest serving rider on obviously, and alongside him should be number 83, which is Dale Kidd. He's not there. We're waiting to see if he emerges on the paddock. Still making their way out into the pit lane. The third row, number 1 and 43. Number 1 is the race champion, Scott Ford, racing for the 99 last year. For the metallic red livery of his structure this year, and alongside him for 43, and well-known A3 touring car racer, who's worked with this weekend leading the championship 3 weeks on the road courses so far. The fourth row, number 8 and 40, number 80, Irish top rod racer David O'Regan, Cork, alongside him number 40, very impressive convert. 2 pickups, so we're going to be racing on the city, principally in Grand Patch, that's number 14 weeks ago, so 80-40 is the fourth row. The fifth row, 86 and 69. 86 is Daniel Hector, well, I'm waiting to see if he comes out. Dan Hector broke down in qualifying early on, he pulled up at the start and aired in. Alongside him will be the 69, that's the southwest, it's Lee Rogers. So 86 and 69 on the fifth row. Sixth row, 41. And 88 to the 41. Now here's a name that's great to see back in pickups. The engine GT4 Supercup racer Carl Borley, former captain pickups, line alongside number 88 of David Weaver. Although there's pausing for a moment, it looks to me as though Carl Borley is going to move to the back of the grid. He's waiting down there in car. We'll be pressing for 41. I apologise when I say car, it's a back. the pit lane, so they are forming up down there. Let's see if we're going to have any changes to the grid for this one. Yeah, looks like they'll get much sharper towards the back as well. Row 7 at the public screen, 7 at 33, and the 7 Roger Gawler, one of the rookies this year, for the Lightning Rod national champion. Yes, he's there, he had his career on the short over 4 miles to Fort Sierra. And number 33 is Tyler Wilkin. The next row is 21 and 28. 21 is last year's Pro 2 class champion, that is Lee Hopkins, he's on 4, and 28 is Julie Hopkins and Chris Red 2 graduate, George Tricky as we call it, in number 28. The 9th row, 50, and number 4, 50, is Jeff Gibson from the West Midlands, the former firefighter. He starts alongside number 4, which is Pete Simpson, who's 16 back out this year, only raced a couple of times in 2017. He's also campaigned in John Bell and bonus on the circuits. The 10th row, number 14 and 13. 14 is Ben Edwards, and number 13 is Richard Ayling. He's the son of Chris Ayling, who raced hot rods for many years. And finally on the grid number 77, which is Chris Lamb. So the grid has just about formed up. It will be a rolling start behind the pace car, the Ford Mondeo, driven by Stuart Bradford. As the new trucks, so look down move to the back of the grid. As we said, George Taricki followed down there at 28. Began his career in Julian Eastop racing on the short ovals before moving to Bristol Formula 2 stock cars. And Julie got most of these drivers, I think, get graduated from short oval racing over the last few years. Looking for the championship points on my print sheet. So yeah. Probably don't point to start, doesn't it? Right, so that. So leading the championship coming into this weekend is number 43 at Fleetwood. 2 wins at Grand Hatch on Wednesday and 1 at Crop. The other wins at Crop is Dago Regan and Jim Scott Moore. So those leading championship contenders all up there in the first 4 rows of the grid. Looks like they haven't got that pet at number 86, that is mechanical problems in qualifying. And yes, George Taricki and Carl Ward have moved to the back of the grid, so they have to make changes to their trucks after qualifying. Because they have to move to the back.
And very good to see that Belgium has made it to his allocated grid position, which, as you rightly said, Dave, will be 4th off the line. Daniel, of course, running 2 separate championships, 2 very different cars this year, as well as the pickup he is racing is a very well-known stealth black Subaru Impreza that dominates the Classic Touring Car Racing Club Classic Thunder Series, and he actually double-assisted. He was racing both the Subaru and the pickup at Croft last month. I think he'll be doing that again at Rockingham next month. So this year today.
Yes, I should be here to see that one. I believe they were in the self-follow, as we call it. It's really black Subaru, that's the flag black car. I think that's proving quick as well. That's his best grid position so far. They're in 4th on the grid. Dan Martin alongside short oval racers, early classics such as National Super Rocks with Walker Freeze. They'll have his career on the short oval as well as in many of these drivers. A lot of these drivers have hot rod racing, mango racing, auto racks as well. Carl Borgi is 4-time National Hot Rod World Champion. Interesting to see how he knows how to start the back of the grid. I've noticed that car in pit lane qualifying with some problems. Certainly the brightest Subaru machine out there around the age of David Weaver, jumps alongside number 7 Roger Gawler. His first races here at Rockingham, his Lightning Rod National Champion last season. We actually is being live streamed as well this weekend. If you want to follow the live timing, then go to tsl-timing.com. That's tsl-timing.com. And the action is being live.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Rockingham Motor Speedway here. And it's Saturday, May 12th, in the build-up to the first ever 24-hour Citroen C1 racing event this afternoon. We've got the pickup trucks on track in the pit lane, ready to go away. About 10 minutes ahead of schedule. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and alongside me in the commentary box is Josh Penny. Morning, Josh. How are you?
Good morning, Alex. It's very good to be here at Rockingham for the for the pickup truck racing. Some very good looking cars at the front of the field today and all the way through as well, and some names that I recognise. So definitely going to be a good one, and quite a nice day for racing at Rockingham as well. Not too warm, not too cold. This is pretty much optimum for the tyres, I'm sure, and I don't think there's an immediate risk of rain, so it's looking okay.
It's cloudy at the moment, but the track has still been declared dry. Race 1 for the weekend is about to get underway. 2x2 rolling start formation. So the top 6 are switched around to make the racing ever closer in the pickup truck racing championship. So on the front row of the grid, it will be the number 65 of Mark Willis. Alongside him will be the number 12 of Paul Tompkins, with Michael Smith, Dale Gent, and that's 93 and 83. And Scott Bourne and Lee Wood, former British Touring Car Championship driver, running the number 1 this year. Just being given directions on where to hold my mic. Thank you very much to the guys from Scruffy Bear Pictures who are working with us here at Downforce UK. Of course, we've got the very formidable Charlie Martin joining us a bit later on when we go C1 racing here at Rockingham. The rest of the 21 strong grid, it's going to be David O'Regan in the 8, followed by Rhys Jones. That's row number 4, ahead of Daniel Petters, Lee Rogers, Carl Boardley, former Janetta racer, if my memory serves me correct, Josh.
Not just former, he's still doing it.
He's still doing it, so there we go, getting his hand in 2 different categories. Then we've got David Weaver and Roger Dormer in 88 and 7, Tyler Wilkin and Dean Tompkins 33-21. That rounds out the top 15, and completing the 21 strong is George Tariki in the 28, Jeff Dixon in the 50, Peter Stevens in the 4, Ben Edwards, probably no association to Channel 4's F1 commentator, in number 14, Richard Ailing and Christopher Land. That's 13 and 77. That rounds out the top 20. That rounds out the 21 strong grid. So the Ford Mondeo safety car is now allowing them to get on the formation lap. So top 10, it's Willis from Tompkins, Smith from Gent, Bourne from Wood, then it's O'Regan, Jones, Petters and Rogers. Josh, this is your first experience of pickup truck racing, I believe.
Yes, it is. I should point out briefly that we said Carl Boardley was going to be up there a couple of rows further ahead than the back, but he is actually lining up at the back of the field, I can see, and I'm not entirely sure what the problem has been there, but whatever the case, Carl Boardley will be starting from the back. But I've seen Carl Boardley race before. He is a formidable overtaker. In fact, he's doing it now, so I think he might be going no, he's still on his route, but anyway, I've seen Carl Boardley making many great overtaking manoeuvres, and he certainly won't be downhearted by this, so he'll see it as a challenge, I'm sure. I'm sure we'll see him fighting his way through.
Definitely, with the calibre of driver that he is, I'm not sure that there's going to be anything but overtaking and scything through the field. 18 laps of the Rockingham full circuit, which is used by the British Touring Car Championship. They'll be heading here later on in the season. So weather, track conditions, it's cloudy, but it is dry here just outside of Corby in Northamptonshire, not too far from the home of British motor racing itself, Silverstone. Of course, for those wanting to know what's happening here at Rockingham, we've got a 3-hour race for Citroen C1s a little bit later on, then the grandstand event itself, 24 hours of Citroen C1s running around Rockingham Motor Speedway for an incredible 24 hours. And there's a couple of names I think I might throw out there. Andy Priaulx, 3-time FIA World Touring Car Championship winner, also won the European Touring Car Championship, but he's now with Ford Performance in the World Endurance. And he's running in car number 303 with son Seb, who's also racing under the Ford banner with the British Formula 4. So in terms of the technical aspects of this track, we've got a very, very long straight in terms of the curving, as they're now getting ready to go green for the first of 18 laps here. We're ready to get the action underway here at Rockingham. So they'll get into formation, and when the lights go out, we go racing for the first time here this weekend. And they're now pushing down the throttle, and off we go, and it's the number 65 that's getting into the first bit of banking before they head down to the very precarious turn 1. It is a 90-degree left-hander, so they're going to have to put the anchors on at exactly the right moment, as looks like Lee Wood has already made up 2, maybe even 3 places as they enter into turn number 1 for the first time of asking.
There was a big lock up there, but the number 65 still leading us round. The car immediately following in second place. Stevens there very nearly took advantage of that, locked up on the outside line and couldn't quite make it through, but it is still the number 65 truck leading of the
number 65, Mark Willis, who started on pole position. Meanwhile, watch out for Scott Bourne, who's actually running the number 1. Lee Wood is running the 43 this year. So Scott Bourne, the defending champion, now already up into third position, looking to hit the front very early as they come through into the infield part, the real infield part here at Rockingham. And there's changes happening up and down the field. Looks like Lee Wood is getting firmly stuck in there on the battle for fourth position.
And there was almost a move for third place there. It looks as if, is that David O'Regan getting involved? He's made up many places. He's running about 6th at the minute. And now as we come down the start-finish straight, it's a clear lead for the number 65 car of Willis. But Bourne, as you say, already up to third and had an attack for second through Tarzan. Very nearly got through on the exit. Actually got alongside Tompkins. They were side by side for a lot of that straight. But still, Tompkins keeping it ahead with the extra momentum, and Bourne goes slightly wide down at the Dean hairpin.
There's still battles up and down the field. The battle is clearly on for third position, I see. But your top 5 at the moment as we complete lap number 1. Now on to lap number 2. It's Willis in the 65 leading by a clear 1.5 seconds from Tompkins in the 12. Bourne is now in third. Smith in fourth, and Lee Wood rounding out the top 5 as they go to the far part of the infield. And it looks like Willis in the 65 is clearly making a getaway in this initial phase. We still have another 16.5 laps to go, and anything can happen in pickup truck racing. I've seen it myself before at Brands Hatch, and when these guys get going, as we've seen an overtake, that's a pretty good move. That's from the 83. That's Gent past O'Regan for position.
And I've just seen Carl Boardley as well making another move. He's made up almost 10 positions already. Fantastic from Carl Boardley at the start. And it's been a completely clean start from everyone as well. Everyone through the first 2 laps cleanly, and that's good to see. There were a couple of cars going almost 3 wide that lap through the pith path and around the back end of the circuit. But as you say, at the end of the second lap, it's very much just between Tompkins and Bourne now. Willis is getting away, and it's between Tompkins and Bourne. Now, Tompkins was much braver on the brakes here last lap down into the Dean hairpin. Can he try something? He's far too far back to try something this lap. But it's all about setting himself up, hanging with his rival through the infield sections, through the corners, and then being able to get even closer than that next time they go onto the straight part.
However, in the lead, Willis is still extending that gap. Last time around, it was just over 1.7
seconds. And there's contact for second. Oh, my word. It looked very much like it was an ambitious move. And now
and sorry to cut across you there, but Bourne is definitely coming under pressure from Lee Wood, who's now up into fourth position. In the infield they go. This is a 3-way scrap for second position. And Bourne's trying to go around the outside. Wood is trying to go up the inside of Bourne. That's incredible close contact racing. They do say rubbing's racing in motorsport, and it's definitely true when you come to the pickups, as Bourne is trying to get the inside line going into the infield part, as Wood has also made up a position, so that's now Wood up into third place.
And still side by side with Bourne as they head down the straight. This is for second position, and Wood's going to get that as well. There's a big lock-up, couldn't quite see who that was from, and it's Wood up to second.
Oh, hang on a minute. Look at this, moving from the number 93 of Smith. He's well in the mix there, and also Gent, so they're both trying to make overtakes. So, top 5 at the moment. It's Willis still leading by 3.9 seconds. Bourne in third. Behind Wood, Tompkins now up into fourth place, Gent up into fifth, Smith and Carl Boardley now up into seventh, having started from the tail end of the field. That's incredible stuff from Boardley. We know of the calibre of this driver.
And Gent and Smith again went side by side down into the Dean hairpin, and I believe it was just about Gent who kept that on the inside line. But I tell you what, Smith was really trying to drag it around the outside of turn 1. I thought he was going to be ahead before the corner. It was certainly a close one.
Well, we do know that some people do have that measure of late braking opportunities, and Smith trying to go around the outside, that puts him at the danger side, if you will. The inside line is the safer place for overtaking, as Willis in the 65 continues to extend that gap, but now there's a clear line of sight between himself and Lee Wood in second. Then it's Bourne with the number 1 in third place, also being dropped by Wood in the process. They were nearly half a second apart last time they crossed the start-finish line, so we are now currently on lap number 4 of 18.
And there's a move for fourth, forcing very, very wide. I believe that's Gent going to the inside of Tompkins, and indeed he does, but Tompkins gets the better run out of the corner with the extra momentum. But look at Gent now, leaves his braking,
major lock
locks
up,
it up
major
really,
lock
really
up.
late. He's in the gravel.
And oh my goodness me, that is going to have, and he manages to clear the gravel trap, and in the process has a bit of a tank slapper going into the final turn. That has dropped him down at least 3 places by my count. So leading, it's still Willis. Wood now sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:30.832. He is closing, and on his last lap in sector 1, he set purple of everybody. In terms of purple of everybody else, Tompkins did a 93.9. Highest speed, so 93.3 miles an hour.
And there's another car off, and who's that? Someone's gone right into the gravel. It's a green car.
Lee Wood. That's Lee Wood, I think, has gone off, because you've got Willis and Bourne now up into...
No, Wood's okay. Wood's in second.
No, Scott Bourne's okay, so we'll keep an eye on that one. So Tompkins, I think, is in 4th at the minute. Smith in 5th. Boardley in 6th. Boardley, I think, is now up into 5th position on the far part of the infield.
Yeah, Boardley up into 5th position already. This has been a fantastic start from Carl Boardley to come right from the back of the grid. Of course, we know he was quickest of anyone in the second qualifying session, which means that he'll be starting from 6th position for our second race. He's got past Gent in all of that melee as well. So up into 5th position for Carl Boardley, and David Gent, I tell you, he will be completely fired up now. We've got a yellow flag, and that could mean a safety car, seeing as it's at a part of the circuit where nothing's happened. So I reckon we've got a safety car here.
Well, we'll wait and see what race control decide, but in the meantime, it's still Willis in the 65 putting the hammer down, but Lee Wood is in close proximity. He's slashed the gap to 1.695 seconds, and again sets the fastest lap of the race at 1:30.656. The number 43 is quite clearly charging to the front end of the field. Bourne rounds out the top 3, then it's Smith, Boardley in 5th, Gent, O'Regan in 7th, and it looks like Jones in the 40 was the one that has dropped significantly down the order.
Okay, well, there's no safety car, but as you said, I believe it was Jones who had the incident at turn 2, the Dean hairpin, that last time around. Didn't quite see what happened, but there was a plume of smoke, and someone went bouncing over the grass. Of course, we saw that on the previous lap from Gent, as he left his braking later than his rival, as he was going side by side for 3rd position, I think, down into the Brook chicane. And obviously just left it too late and went into the gravel. And of course, then you have the problem of possible radiator damage. You know, you've bounded through the gravel like that. Who knows what's happened to the front of your car? The yellow flags have now been withdrawn, so there was no safety car. That was me calling it a bit prematurely.
Meanwhile, at the front of the field, watch out, Willis. You've got Lee Wood closing on your back bumper. The cars are separated by at least 4 car lengths as they're going into the final part of the track. And I'm sure that Lee Wood will be gunning for that lead. He's been... He put it in pole for this race. The reverse grid pole as a result of the top 6 being switched around. It was Willis in the 65, but now Lee Wood is closing in the slipstream, going across the start-finish line. This gap will be at least less than a second.
I tell you
less than half a second.
Wow. Well, I mentioned the good recovery of Carl Boardley, but I should have been looking at Lee Wood, who's made his way through from 6th on the grid and is, well, really closing on the leader, as he said, and has been for several laps. Of course, Wood was the quickest in the qualifying session, but we reversed the top grid to keep the pack close. But Wood
and Wood's
right
going
for
it. Wood's trying to go for it on into turn number 2. So that's going to be very, very close. I'm going to keep an eye on this battle. Into the right-hand sweeper at turn number 3, then into turn 4. Wood is very close, and he's got the inside run. He's not going to make it that time around. However, Scott Bourne in the number 1 is still in close proximity. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, Borley is charging and he's trying to get past Smith in the 93. Here comes Lee Wood. He's running the back bumper of Willis.
Yeah, very nearly touched him there as they went through the back part of the circuit towards Tarzan, and now Tarzan's an opportunity. He's up the inside, not quite. There was a slight overlap initially, but later braking from our leader kept him ahead, and Wood's going to have to try again, possibly down into the Brook chicane. Of course, we saw Gent going for it earlier, and he made a little error down into the chicane. Not close enough. He needs to stick with him and get back in that slipstream as we head down the start-finish straight.
So here come our leaders. It's Willis from Wood. The battle for the lead is clearly on. Wood is in the tow and has got great purchase coming out of the Brook chicane, heading down into the left-hand sweeper part of the oval as they head down towards turn 1. So Wood is right up close and personal with Willis. It could be a matter of time. We're now on to lap number 9 as Lee Wood in the 43 is trying to close onto the back bumper of Willis in the 65.
And here goes Boardley for 4th. So Boardley takes a look. I think that was speculative, just showing himself to the mirrors of Smith ahead. Just trying to force him into a mistake, really. Nothing happened, and someone is slowing. Someone is slowing on the exit of turn 1. They've pulled over to the inside of the course.
Well, there's been a lock-up, and someone has put it sideways coming out of turn 1. So
yeah,
there's going to be someone that's going to be dropping down the order significantly. I'm just going to keep an eye on that, as well as trying to keep an eye on the battle for the lead. And also for 4th, as Carl Boardley, currently running in 5th position, having started from the back end of the field, is making his way through with a... He's a bit like a sorcerer from the Asterix comics, with the scythe in his hand, trying to get past anyone that's in front of him. So great job by Carl Boardley as Lee Wood tries to go for the lead yet again on Willis in the 85, going through Tarzan. He's not quite making it happen just yet, but there will be an opportunity. He's run on the back bumper of the 65 as they head towards the Brook chicane.
Tell you what, Willis was spooked. He certainly went wide on the exit there as he saw the lock-up from Wood behind, and Willis was definitely spooked by that, as understandably you would be. And let's not forget that behind them, of course, ready to pounce if something goes wrong, and let's hope that it doesn't, is Bourne. So, well, here it goes again. He's even closer through turn 1 than he has been before, I believe. Lee Wood going to the back of Willis's car, and, well, it would take something pretty creative to do it into Dean that time, so he didn't, but still very, very
Borley's
close.
coming under fire. Borley is definitely coming under fire, and that's from Gent, I think, in the 83, or Smith in the 93. So Borley, having done that great run through the field, is still now having to watch his back bumper as the battle between Willis in the 65, Wood in the 43. That is your battle for the lead of this race, but Scott Bourne, in the meantime, has really closed up. The gap between them last time around was... The top 3 was nearly 1.4 seconds, but Bourne, because Wood and Willis at the front have been battling mano-a-mano, so to speak, this has allowed Bourne to capitalise and close the gap. And I think the top 3 will be split by probably about 0.6 of a second next time we come around to cross the start-finish line.
Well, there was a car in the Dean hairpin that time that lost about 2 positions, so battling going on all throughout the field. I believe that was Jones again. But at the front, still they're close. And as they exit Tarzan, again, there was a slight overlap. That has been for the past 3 or 4 laps here, actually.
Hang on. Before I say anything, look, there's a car actually beached on the inside on the approach into turn number 1. That's going to bring out the yellow flags at the very least, and maybe even a safety car. Meanwhile, at the front...
No, that's been there for 2 laps.
2 laps. Oh, thank you very much for correcting me there, Josh. But the leaders, it's now becoming a 3-man brawl, as Jake Sanson would say. He's used that very well in GP3. Now it's happening in the pickup trucks, thanks to my good self, but it's still Willis, Wood and Bourne. The 3 were separated by just over 7.5 tenths, as Wood is still trying to put the feelers out on Willis to get past. But all the time, this is allowing Bourne in the number 1 to still have that little bit of an advantage, and it looks like that just trying to keep an eye out, as Wood, I think, is still trying to get past. But we'll see as they come through turn number 2 who's going to be out in front.
And Boardley's under attack again. They're side by side for 4th, and there's a big plume of smoke as something happened there at Yentwood. He's still running, but again, as you say, 3-man brawl up the front. Fantastic racing. And this has been going on for laps. Fantastic defending from Willis, I should point out, to have stayed ahead for so long. They very nearly went side by side through Yentwood, just as Boardley did behind with Ghent. But,
as it looks like Wood has gone up the inside, finally round Willis, and makes the tail end go a bit tail happy, goes sideways, getting into the lead past Willis. So now that has been the opportunity that Lee Wood has been waiting for. He's now got past Willis. Now Willis is going to come under quick scrutiny and pressure from Bourne in the number 1. So this three-way scrap at the front of the field is by no means over in any way, shape or form. As Willis now gets into the slipstream of Wood, who now gets ahead of everybody else. And the top 3 separated that time around would have been around about sort of just over 7/10 of a second. But Bourne is still closing on the back bumper of Willis. He is really pushing the envelope of both adhesion but also pressurising Willis into a mistake, which Wood was able to do, I think, after at least 4 to 5 laps, having come under the intense pressure by the number 43 of Lee Wood. We're now on to lap number 11 of 18. Top 10 at the moment. It's Wood from Willis, Bourne from Smith, Boardley up into 5th place now, Ghent in 6th. Weaver, O'Regan, Tompkins and Dormer have just swapped positions, and that's 9th and 10th. So there's still plenty of action still to come in this race. And a little bit further down the order, there are some really nice, clean, neat overtakes up the inside going into turn number 1. But if you have a look at the top 3 at the minute, it's still Wood leading, Willis in 2nd, Bourne in 3rd. A little bit further back, it's Smith, Boardley and Ghent. That's the battle for 4th to 6th position, and they are about to come up to the number 17, I think, of Ayling, and the number 13. Rogers looks like he's actually parked it. So the leaders are now going to have a little bit of a further strategic change to their battle plans, because now they've got Ayling. I think they're going to be probably, as they come out of the Brook Chicane, it's going to be a case of who's going to want it the most, but who's also going to get past Ayling first. We'll find that out momentarily as the leaders cross the start-finish line.
Well, I tell you what, Wood's going to be feeling so relieved about that, as Boardley now side by side with Smith for 4th position. He's got the inside for turn 1, and he's through there. Obviously, just got a better exit. Look at 3rd. That's Bourne challenging for the lead of the race there, for 2nd rather. Doesn't manage it quite there, and Boardley indeed does get the 4th position. Well,
he had the better run using the slipstream, coming across the start-finish line into the bank part of the oval, which leads into the turn 1 hairpin. So that's really good, strategic, but also clear line of sight. He knew he had the opportunity, knew he had the horsepower under him, and punched it. As the top 3 now get past the number 13 of Ayling, who's currently running in 17th. So out of the 19 cars that started, I think we have 17 still circulating.
Tell you what, they caught him in a pretty bad position there, and it was a little bit hairy. Oh, wow, someone's really kicked up the dust.
We've definitely had someone pick up the dust. I'm wondering.
That was the leader, yeah.
So Lee Wood now coming under pressure from Willis in the 65. Bourne is there in striking distance as they now come through Tarzan, as more drivers get past the number 13 of the first of the drivers to be lapped. Ayling in the number 13, currently running in 17th position, as the leaders are now coming through the Brook Chicane and round onto the main banked oval straight that we have here at Rockingham. Great show of how momentum can be used to go into that first hairpin, Josh.
Yeah, certainly. It's all about momentum here at Rockingham, a very fast circuit, and indeed, if you can get yourself alongside down this straight and keep it on the inside at turn 1, you're absolutely through. Bourne now going to 2nd, leaves the braking later, and Willis again spooked by that, as you would be. Bourne not quite going through there. I thought that was more of a full-on attack than it actually was. Meanwhile, Ghent is attacking for 5th position, actually. He's attacking Smith for that place. Ghent on a recovery drive, going to the outside of Yentwood, rather. I say Ghentwood. Up the inside for the lead. That was close. Wood again under attack, but still Willis not able to find a way through. The tables have absolutely turned, because it was Wood only a couple of laps ago who was in the exact position that Willis finds himself in now. And well, a taste of his own medicine, I suppose, for Willis.
Well, Wood is definitely not out of the woods quite yet, and look who's just joined this battle. Carl Boardley is there.
I tell you what, Carl Boardley could win this race. If he can do that from the back of the grid, this will be the drive of the century.
Well, I've seen some pretty good. As
there's
a
a
big
mistake
lock up.
for second. Willis is off. Willis is off, and through goes Boardley. Through goes Bourne, and Willis just left his braking later. I saw a plume of smoke, and then off he went, and through into second place goes Bourne. Third is Boardley, and down to fourth is Willis, and he will be very, very disappointed about that. It was all through his own fault from what I saw, and well, that's a shake-up at the front of the order.
Definitely, with Carl Boardley now in the mix in the top three, rounding out the top three, who were separated by just over 1.8 seconds on the last tour here at Rockingham Motor Speedway. 14 laps completed. It's now down to the business end of this first pickup truck racing event of the weekend, as the sun now starts to break out a little bit here at Rockingham. So breaking through the clouds, still keeping the track dry, but at the front it is still Wood in the 43. Bourne, the number one, now up into second, and he goes a bit tail happy going through that infield complex, which is allowing Carl Boardley to close. The gap between Bourne and Boardley last time around, Josh, was just over 6.5 tenths, but I think that's even closer now with the pure speed and the pure, how can I say, gumption and guts that Carl Boardley has had to show this drive through the field to get into the top three, and he is in the opportune window of going for the lead at some point, maybe in the next 3.5 laps, as we fast approach the end of lap number 15 here at Rockingham Motor Speedway.
Gumption says it all, really.
And guts, and guts.
And guts, don't forget that. So they're really closing in at the front here. Of course, it was a three-way battle just now, but Boardley was nowhere near them. But now we're seeing a proper three-way chain again, and don't count out Willis yet, because he will be fired up after that. And I can see there's also still that battle going on for fifth place between Smith and Gent. But up the front of the field, of course, it's all between Wood, Bourne and Boardley. And I tell you what, Bourne has a real chance to get involved now. He's been sort of the silent assassin in this race so far, the real dark horse, running the number one there. But well, now he can attack, and it's for the lead of the race, so it's well worth it.
Plus, also they've got another back marker up ahead of them. I've got a feeling that might be Edwards in the number 14 that's going to be trying to get out of the way very quickly, as Lee Wood is coming under increasing pressure from not just Scott Bourne but Carl Boardley. This top three has really concertinaed even closer over the last couple of laps. So it's now going to be the question that needs to be asked. Who's going to win this out of the top three? Is it going to be Lee Wood? Is it going to be Scott Bourne? Is it going to be Carl Boardley? We have just laps ticking down, and it's been absolutely enthralling, with Willis in the 65 being in there for the majority of the race until he had that lock up at the Brook chicane. They've now come through Tarzan, so it's still Wood, Bourne, Boardley, Willis. That's your top four.
Tell you what, it makes sense seeing as we reversed the top six after qualifying, but throughout this race there have been about 6 drivers who I thought have had a real shot at winning this race, and even now I think pretty much the same thing, because even 5th and 6th aren't that much further, and yes, we're running out of laps, but of course these guys battling at the front are going to be holding themselves up, and you never know what's going to happen in the last couple of laps of this race. As you say, they're just approaching a back marker. Which is
Edwards in the number 14.
Yeah, that's a good place to get out of the way there.
He sees the trio coming behind him and goes, you know what, I don't want any part of this whatsoever. And I'm definitely right, Mr. Edwards, you are right to say that, as the top three now come into the first technical part of the infield.
Look at 5th, because Gent had a real swipe at Smith through Dean that time around, and there's a big lockup actually. They both made it through the corner and still in the same order, but that's also one that is certainly not over yet.
However, as the leaders now come through into the main part of the infield section, so it's still Lee Wood continuing to lead. The gap between him and Scott Bourne last time around was just over 4.5 tenths. Boardley was a further 2.5 tenths adrift, so the top three were separated by 7 tenths of a second. Fastest lap of the race at the moment still goes to Lee Wood, because now it's not about the fastest lap, it's who's got one up on the other.
Gent to the outside again for 5th. Smith again defending, runs him wide. That's a good line to take in defence there through the absolute middle of the corner. No way you're getting past that unless you're already on the inside. Gent wasn't, and Smith keeps 5th place for now. He's been defending for a while. It looks at the minute like they're running 6th and 7th, but one of those cars in the chain ahead of them is about to be blue flagged and get out of their way. But yeah, the battle for 5th. Oh, it's closing in again, actually. In fact, I think Ghent's going to have the inside at turn 1. Smith very much left the door open there. I'm quite surprised about that. And look at 2nd place, because Boardley had a look at Bourne, and well, Bourne's going to get out ahead there with the extra momentum. But Ghent indeed has passed Smith, and that's for 5th position. So Ghent up into 5th, but he's run wide on the exit, and Smith is right back through.
So we have this and another additional lap to go. So we're fast approaching the conclusion of this first 18-lap race for the Pickup Truck Racing Championship through the BARC, as the leaders now come through into the main bowl infield part of the track as they head towards the left-hander, which will then take them on the run down to Tarzan. It's still Lee Wood leading, Scott Bourne in 2nd, Carl Boardley in 3rd, and it's still nip and tuck. So I can see from our commentary position just on the main straightaway that the last lap board is being prepared. So when these top 3 come round, it's going to be 1 lap to go. Who's going to want it the most? We'll find out in a few moments' time. Fastest lap of the, as I said, fastest lap of the race still Lee Wood, 1 minute 30.656. But the drivers have been running in the 1:32s, so a good nearly a 2-second gap between what pace there was earlier on from Lee Wood as.
Well, down the straight and onto. Well, they didn't actually show the final lap board that time.
It can be a bit disguised, but it is definitely out. Final lap board.
Okay, final lap now.
So let's concentrate on the leaders very much.
Oh, and again going for 5th in exactly the same way that he did last lap, and again Smith has left the door open, and through has. Oh, and there's a spin. It's Boardley. Boardley has spun. He went to the outside of Bourne in turn 2, the Dean hairpin, and he lost control of the car. The rear axle locked up. Round he went. He's recovered the car in 4th position. He's lost a place to Willis, and that's a disaster for Carl Boardley, who looked as if he'd have a real chance of winning this race from the back of the grid. Now he's had a major setback, and he's not going to have time to recover it.
Well, who knows whether Smith and Ghent might actually pick him up in the process. I think could be a bit late in that particular situation. But meanwhile, the leaders, Lee Wood, Scott Bourne, that's your top 2. Still, now they're now approaching Tarzan for the very last time. And I don't think Bourne has got the run on Wood. He's actually a couple of car lengths behind as they go into the braking zone, turn in, hit the apex, put the power down, coming out of the corner. Now it's the final run down to the brick chicane as we're about to complete this first race of the weekend. As there's a bit of contact, bit of contact between Smith and Ghent for 5th and 6th position behind Boardley. But meanwhile, leaders coming around the final couple of corners through the brick chicane, and it's now the run to the flag, and the man putting the throttle down to get into a win, it's the number 43 of Lee Wood.
What a race that was. Lee Wood wins it, and it's Bourne who crosses the line in 2nd, only just behind him. Willis is 3rd, Boardley is 4th. Hugely disappointing to have a spin on the final lap of the race. It's still on for 5th, and there's damage for
there's
for
huge
Smith.
smoke. There's huge smoke coming from the back bumper of Smith's pickup. Now I'm wondering whether that's actually bodywork fouling on the back part of the rear tyres, or whether there may be a further problem, whether there's exhaust contact in there as well. But I tell you what, that was one of the races that kick-started this Rockingham weekend here in May.
And we're still side by side for 7th. It's going to be a drag race to the line, and just about
it's
the number 8 car
gets it from Taricki by a whisker, as does the number 4 of Stevens, takes 10th ahead of Weaver. So in terms of the finishing order, as we're waiting for some of the competitors still to filter through the infield, your winner for race 1 of the Pickup Truck Racing Championship here at Rockingham Motor Speedway, it's the number 43 of Lee Wood, beating Scott Bourne, the number 1, to the line by just over half a second. Then it was Willis, a further 4.8 seconds adrift in 3rd. The ever impressive Carl Boardley, who had that massive spin, as you picked out, Josh, off of the main hairpin coming off the bank straight. Then it was Smith, Ghent, O'Regan, Taricki, Dormer and Stevens rounding out the top 10 as Alien comes to cross the finish line.
Well, what a fantastic race that was. I tell you, when you get a race where you never know who's going to win it until the final lap of the race, when they're still scrapping so hard. We had 3 drivers going pretty much 3 wide into the Dean hairpin on the final lap. They were close throughout the whole thing. And yeah, there was always a battle of 3 or 4 drivers up the front, but it was a different 3 or 4 drivers seemingly every 3 or 4 laps. It was just brilliant. And in the end, as you say, the winning gap was actually 0.503, so just over half a second in it, and you don't really get much closer than that. That was proper attacking range, and if there'd been one more lap, who knows what could have happened.
So congratulations to the number 43 of Lee Wood, taking the opening race here at Rockingham Motor Speedway, having put it on pole, started from 6th and made good his intentions to start off the race weekend with a win. Scott Bourne and Willis, that rounds out your top 3. That's our podium sitters for our very first race. We'll be back a little bit later on when we continue the coverage of the Citroen C1 Racing 24 hours. We've got a 3-hour enduro up ahead of that, but we'll see more action from the pickups. We'll be back with you in just a few moments. So, podium celebrations underway here at Rockingham Motor Speedway for the first of three Pickup Truck Racing Championships. And on the podium, your top three in third place, despite having outbraked himself going into the Brook chicane in the last bit of the race. Willis in the number 65. So that's Mark Willis in the 65 who takes the podium on the first race of the day. And then the number 1 of Scott Bourne being in the mix pretty much from the get-go. But the man on the top step, Lee Wood, number 43, starts his weekend in style with a pretty dramatic win, with Carl Boardley unfortunately not making it into the top 3, as Josh had seen a bit earlier on. But Josh, your thoughts over that race?
Well, as I said, it was a very, very close one, and there were points where you just had no idea what was going on at the front and who was going to come out ahead. But yeah, great drive from our podium. Of course, Lee Wood was the quickest in qualifying, but then of course got dropped back to P6 due to our partially reversed grid, and had to fight for it definitely, but came out triumphant. And well, the cream always rises to the top, so definitely a deserved winner there. Second place, as you say, Scott Bourne, very good defence and attack. And then third place, of course, was Mark Willis, who yeah, made a mistake, but apart from that, flawless, and definitely deserves to be up on the podium there. I just feel really bad for Carl Boardley, who fought so hard, and then a seemingly one mistake on the final lap of the race just dropped him away from that champagne bottle.
Well, to be honest with you, Josh, in all fairness, Carl Boardley accredited himself, as we know he can do, and to get from the back end of the field back up into 4th position. He might be a bit disappointed with that mistake, but when it was all said and done, finishing 4th from the back of the field isn't exactly a bad shout, is it?
Oh, of course not, absolutely. And he'll be starting 6th for race 2. So if he can finish 4th from the back of the grid, and then he can start from 6th, well, who knows what he can do in race 2. It's certainly not over, and well, that's going to be taking place later on. I'm very much looking forward to that, I must say, and I'm sure that you are as well. Don't miss it, it's going to be a cracker.
And of course, ladies and gentlemen, we are here in association with the Citroën C1 Racing Club, who will very shortly be having a 3-hour endurance race here at Rockingham Motor Speedway ahead of our grandstand event, which takes place from 5 o'clock this afternoon with Richardson Racing GT5 Ginetta driver Charlie Martin as part of our presenting team in association with Scruffy Bear Pictures and also Downforce UK. So there we go, that concludes the podium celebrations as the drivers are being interviewed. We'll be back momentarily to kickstart our first bit of proper Citroën C1 racing action. We'll be back in a moment.